Hey buddy, welcome to another episode of Star Wars Minute. It's the daily podcast where we analyze, scrutinize, and celebrate the rise of Skywalker 1 minute at a time. I'm Alex Robinson. My website is alexrobinson.fun.
I'm Pete the Retailer. My website is petetheretailer.fun.
And today we are discussing minute 141 of the Rise of Skywalker. 141 starts off with a thank you to Transport Office Coordinator Ben C. Vokes. Good job, Ben. And it ends a minute later, letting us know that the song Lido Hey was written by Lin-Manuel Miranda and J.J. Abrams. He's like triple dipping that guy. He's got voice credits, directing credits.
Doing everything.
Yes.
You know, and I bet he does get residuals for all different fronts for that. He gets directing residuals, acting residuals, and songwriting residuals off the movie. So he's getting it wherever he can.
He's a producer, too. His father's in it.
There you go. Think he's stealing his checks. Well, I've got nothing for this other than my list of Pete's. We've been tracking the Pete's. I think this is the second most number of Pete's in the movie in this minute. Do we have anything else credit-wise that we want to talk about first before we can jump into the Pete's?
Well, this is where, if you'll recall, when we were doing, I think it was The Last Jedi, was the first time we started getting outraged at people's, like the vice president of production and sales was, and we learned that these were all dictated by contracts. Like if you do work for them, you get 10 slots. You can fill them in however you want. Here are some of the Lucasfilm people credited. Who I'm like, really? More so than the musicians? The vice president of finance, the principal counsels, supervisor of asset management, as senior vice president of licensing and franchise. Like,
I mean, it is Star Wars, so.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, licensing and franchise is that should be number one. Yeah.
Walt Disney Studios, you have the executive vice president of marketing, the vice president of publicity. So, but here are some jobs that I thought were like, okay, these are more along the lines of what we were doing last week of cool jobs. First of all, these end credits provided by Scarlet Letters. Great name for a digital letter company.
I bet they know what it means.
Yes. One of the Lucasfilm credits is the Keeper of the Holocron.
Yes, Leland Chee.
Leland Chee, yes. Him and Pablo Hidalgo, of course, are the ones who keep continuity in order and get to name all these characters and so on.
Now, I have a friend who used to work with Ella, a friend of ours, and whenever we sometimes we'll go hang out with him and his friends, and anytime I get into a conversation about what I do with them, somebody will be like, "Oh, we went to school with a guy who's." And either they say like, oh yeah, our friend, Leland Chee is, like, oh yeah, the Keeper of the Holocron, or they'll say like, oh, we got a friend who works for Star Wars and his job is Keeper of the Holocron. I'm like, oh yeah, Leland Chee. So they know him, they went to school with him, and they're always like, wowed that I know who that is. But it's a great credit.
Yeah.
And I have not been at one of these things and spoken to Leland Chee, so I don't think they necessarily keep tabs on him.
What would you say?
Still in touch with him, but.
What would you say to him if you were at one of these parent-teacher things and suddenly you're hanging out with Leland Chee? Would you say, oh, I do a Star Wars podcast? Would you invite him on the show?
Well, specifically with him, I'd be like, oh, hey, we know, I'd list off some of the same people that we know.
Okay.
And then be like, yeah, it came up because I do a Star Wars.
Okay.
That's why I start to fade off. Like, yeah, I do a podcast. It's Star Wars.
That's when he would slowly start to back away. Well, maybe when you see him, you can mention the fact that in the television program Resistance, the ill-fated Resistance, there is a character named Lychee, named in honor of Leland Chee. He did the temporary voice track for the character, but then was replaced by Fred Armisen. So, it's a so there you go, Leland Chee.
The drummer it's been a rotating position since the 80s, but the drummer for Devo, he's also been replaced by Fred Armisen at one point.
Oh, has he really?
I think it's more of a thing. And once they lost it's their not their original drummer, but the drummer of note. Originally their drummer was the third Mothersbaugh brother, and then Alan Myers was their drummer throughout their heyday, the peak Devo. And then since then, it's been kind of a not a rotating cast, but they've gone through a handful of drummers.
Yeah, I feel like off the top of my head, I feel like drummers are the most frequently we have to get a replacement for this guy.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, except Ringo, of course, hanging on.
Mm-hmm.
Some other jobs, people I thought, Karen Ireland was the unit nurse. So I'm sure a lot of people were thankful to see her. She was also the unit nurse on Rogue One, Solo, Detective Pikachu, and Black Widow.
Which set do you think had the most visits to the nurse's office? Which of those shoots? I don't think Detective Pikachu had children on set. Otherwise, I would say maybe, children are clumsy.
Yeah.
Maybe they would do it, but
children are, that's my favorite TV show back in the day. Children are clumsy.
I think I mentioned this before, but man, I against my better judgment, I follow an Instagram account called Kids Getting Hurt, and it's
wow.
It's like, luckily each one is, has a in the notes, it's like Dad said he was okay. But like each one is just the kids just like eating it, just totally, like all the, like going down the driveway on a big wheel and falling backwards or trying to jump into the pool and missing and hitting the patio instead, or like all kinds of.
Do you think that's like the kind of yin yang where you're a loving father, but also some part of you is like,
It's cathartic in that I get to see all the, like, don't worry, Mom said she's okay. that kind of a thing at the end. I'm like, oh, okay, well, if that.
So you get the best
that
of
happened,
both worlds.
And then I don't feel so worried about my own. I'm worried still. I'm not going to be like, it's okay. Just film it, put it on Instagram. But I'm a little bit like, oh, okay, well, if they fall off this thing, I'm not the only one in the world who that has happened to.
Assuming one of your children was, in an incident, but was okay, would you consider submitting your video to that?
Possibly.
Okay.
I mean, if it was funny enough.
Yeah. Also, is this one guy doing them all, or is it?
He's collecting them. People send them in.
Good.
People submit them. So.
Good. Yeah. You hear about all those awful YouTube stories about people turning their kids into YouTube content.
Oh, yeah.
Ahmed Jalbouche was the drone assistant. Do you think that means he is a drone who's also an assistant? He's kind of redundant drone assistant.
I think he was just hanging out like, hey, you want me to get you a cup of coffee?
I think he was helping the guy who was saying that.
Oh, right.
He's the drone assistant. He's like, do you want any? And the guy's like, coffee. It's coffee. Test pilot Peter Gillian.
He's on my list.
Oh yeah, I shouldn't have brought that up, but
it's okay. He's fantastic. Like, if you said like, oh yeah, I mean, I've got a credit in the new Star Wars. Is what? A test pilot. Oh, you played a test pilot? No, I was the test pilot.
I'm the test pilot.
Yeah.
Though that answers your question. Who went to go see the unit nurse the most? The test pilot.
Test pilot. I'm sure.
Why do they have a test pilot?
I mean, I guess if they have any aerial, well, maybe it was with drones, maybe it wasn't, maybe it's a little bit, or if they had anything kind of like flying, or maybe to set up, aerial shots, like a helicopter shot or something like that, maybe they needed to set up the rigging first, and they have somebody just fly it over first, just be like, okay.
Yeah.
Like somebody who's kind of an expert on
flying,
coming out of controlled, like problems.
Yeah.
Good at aerial problem solving, and then they're like, all right, it works with the camera on that side. You just have to tilt it this way a little bit. And then the other cameraman pilot goes in. I don't know.
Yeah. I bet Harrison Ford want to be the test pilot. He's famous for his airline stunts. Horses provided by Devil's Horsemen. That what are those things called again? The
Orbaks.
Orbaks, right. Not Fantheers, as much as I wanted them to be. That is the last of my specific to the credits. I did ask, how much longer would the A New Hope credits be if they were done in the modern style? Of course, we have no way of knowing, but back then I feel like there was less.
Well,
how long are the credits for Star Wars?
You want me to look it up?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to guess not more than 5 minutes.
Well, let's see. Let's get
You want to take a wager?
I would say that a little bit more than... I don't know. Maybe not, because maybe we started... I'm trying to remember what our season was like, but that was so long ago. Who knows?
Yeah, long time.
Let's see. I almost said the name of the URL where we watch our videos out loud, and that would have been bad.
Oh, boy. You would not want that.
Original recipe Star Wars. No special edition. No nothing. Skip to the end. And we're talking about, let's see, the last... Remember how long that is?
How long what is?
The Star Wars.
123 minutes.
Close. 122.
Oh, sorry. I'm a poser.
Sorry. Wedge. Okay, so you may be correct. Let's see. They're getting medals now in 118. Yeah, and the credits start in the middle of 118.
And it ends on 122.
And it ends on 122. So half
minutes.
of 118. Yeah. 119, 120, 121, 122.
3.5 minutes. We'll call it an even 4 minutes.
Well, because I think 122 is just a few seconds long also, if I recall correctly.
We'll call it 3 minutes.
7 seconds of black for minute 122. So, yeah.
But still, a lot different back then. So,
I guess that makes, back when I was encouraged, I've mentioned this before, as a kid, I was encouraged to stick around and watch the credits.
Yeah.
And, when they're 4 minutes long, that's different. We got 2 weeks going on here.
Yeah. I really like your QR code idea where they'll just show a big QR code on the screen, you scan it, and then you can see the whole list of credits.
Or I think give out a playbill for movies. They need to go back to that, like a program.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're gonna get
let's figure out how to make it worse for the environment. What's the worst way that we can do it?
Can we make the playbills printed on plastic?
Flimsoplast.
Well, I have here the remaining trivia. Do you want to do Pete's first? Do your Pete's
Yeah,
first.
let me hit the list of Pete's here. We already got one of them, but I'll back up in order of appearance within the credits, I think. In the group of unit drivers, Peter Tebecki is one of those.
Driving units.
Standby vehicles by Lays International UK.
Is that Laze or Lays?
Lays, like the chips.
Oh, let's.
But Peter Neary is one of those listed under that standby vehicles by Lays International. Peter Neary is a member of Lays International UK, I guess.
You seem suspicious of this, like it's some kind of shell, like a con going on or something. There's no Lays truck company.
Into this and unearth a multi-million-dollar graft.
It's going to turn out to be J.J. Abrams using an alias. So.
There you go. He's getting it everywhere he can.
Yeah, he's triple dipping.
Going back to the Lucasfilm studio team, we got one, Pete Vilmer. I think we've mentioned him before because it is tempting to say his last name like Fred Flintstone shouting. Got Standby Carpenter. Pete Stewart. Pete Stewart, Standby Carpenter. He's ready to go on in case Karen can't play the drums and sing at the same time.
And his brother is Pete Stewart, who's a part-time his name is Pete Carpenter. And then he is a steward. He's a part standby steward, yeah.
Standby steward. You know what, steward? I like you. Transportation coordinators. One of them is Peter Williams.
Do you think he is? Do you think he's the son of John Williams?
Oh, maybe.
I'm assuming anyone with a name that matches someone else is just got the job because they are related to that person.
And that's he was the guy who drove John Williams on to set. He got his son or his grandson or whatever to drive him to set. So then he was like, "Well, you get a credit for that. So you'll be a transportation coordinator."
Let's make it his son because it's funnier if it's a 70-year-old man driving a 90-year-old man to work.
Right? Yeah. And what have we got? Test pilot Peter Gillen. We mentioned him. Gillen. And then within that same kind of aerial unit, shot over technician.
Shot over
technician.
SHOT space OVER.
No space, I don't believe.
Oh, shot
over.
Shot
The
over.
hunt for red shot over. I believe shot over technician Peter Graff. Which then, what was who played Tackleberry in the Police Academy movies? Wasn't that?
I don't know.
Because that made me think of like, I feel it was, I don't know. Yeah. I'm not looking that up. I'm looking up the.
All right, I'll look it up.
I'm looking up, double checking my spelling on shot over technician. But yeah, we I don't know what that person does. Unit drivers. We had a little credits for minibus drivers, which made me happy. I wonder who was riding the minibus.
David Graff is Tackleberry.
David Graff. So this is Peter Graff, a shot over technician. There's some kind of connection there. You can see what I'm going for. Tackleberry shot a lot of things. This is a shot over technician.
Do you remember what Tackleberry's first name is?
Was it Eugene?
Eugene. Wow, you are a super fan of Tackleberry. You're in the 1% percentile. You're in the 1 percentile of people who know things about Tackleberry.
About Police Academy. No, not Police Academy, just specifically Tackleberry.
Yeah, you're a super
yeah, let's see. Unit. Let's see. Prop men. We got SFX technicians and assistants. Aerial unit. Here we go. Yeah, shot over technician. One word. Shot over technician. One word. Peter Graff. Listed right below test pilot Peter Geelan.
I wonder if shot over is some kind of like filming thing. Shot over is like the software that they attach to the bottom of the helicopter, and then
you know what? You're right, because
like the volume.
2 or 3 things below that we get shot over stabilized camera systems.
Oh, okay.
Like Team 5 LLC.
I kept seeing people credited as with something called Lolly. Like lolly operator, lolly, mechanic. And I was like, what is that? And it turned out to be some kind of software,
Oh, okay. It wasn't like a little cartoon kid with a lollipop, like an all-day supper.
No, it was, I don't think they call them those in England. So, so that's it for the Pete's.
That's it for the Pete's. In the whole movie, actually. Spoiler alert, nobody coming in tomorrow, so...
The last Pete of the Star Wars saga.
Peter Graff, star of Police Academy movies.
Mm-hmm. Well, goodbye, funny man. Well, in that case, I have some IMDb trivia left over from last week.
Oh, sure.
This will be the clearinghouse for that sort of thing.
Hungry for some leftovers?
Carrie Fisher, we mentioned, she gets top billing in the film. She's actually the second actress to get top billing in a Star Wars.
Interesting. Oh, does Jyn Erso get top billing in Rogue One?
She does. Felicity Jones? Is that her name?
I don't know. Sure.
Anyway.
Everybody moves so... I know Tackleberry's first name, but I can't remember that actress in a movie we talked about last year or 2 years ago, whatever it was.
For 8 months
6
in
months,
a row.
Yeah.
I Rebel. That's how we know.
Yeah,
we know her better as I Rebel. As if the presence of Penny's Boat Hobbit was not infuriating enough, according to IMDb, Dominic Monaghan and J.J. Abrams were watching the World Cup, and they made a bet, and the bet was, if your team wins, you get to be in the new Star Wars movie.
Really?
And that is how he... According to the IMDb trivia section, that is how he wound up with the job. I almost think it's put there just to make nerds even angrier.
Yeah.
And he'd never seen a Star Wars before.
Yeah. You just heard it was something fun to do.
So, yeah, that's an interesting...
What year was that? Was it 2018?
Rise of Skywalker came out in 19.
Yeah, so that's probably... so we can assume that what... was JJ rooting for America?
I should hope so. It made him his fortune.
I spoiler alert, I never root for America. And sometimes I'll root for America in definitely in women's sports I'll root for America. But I feel like rooting for America in men's sports is like doubling down on the oppressor. And I never root for them internationally.
In sports, or what about other things like the U.S. chess team?
No, I rarely. I mean, sometimes an underdog story is fun if they're like, because we don't play soccer the way that the rest of the world plays football.
You got to edit all this stuff out because you're gonna. This is gonna hurt the brand.
It is my dream to have a crowd angrily chanting USA at me. So I'm setting up my. This is my.
You're doing a heel turn, aren't you?
I'm trying to find did the U.S. even qualify for the World Cup in 2018?
Dude, you're asking the wrong jock.
Yeah, I don't even know. So who was, or was it qualifiers? It was before then, because did Ireland even make it? I don't see. I mean, he's Irish, right? Dominic Monaghan. He sounds like he could be, but I could be wrong.
I don't remember.
Anyway,
I don't want to say, oh yeah, and it turns out he's Scottish or Welsh or
All right, well, I know I got to type that in real quick. Keep talking now.
Well, if you recall, you and I speculated that perhaps Adam Driver was not available to do ADR, resulting in his being completely silent, other than an ow in the last third of the movie.
I have a unusual update.
Okay.
Dominic Monaghan is a German-born British actor.
That's right. I knew there was a trick to it.
Oh. So he's so maybe he's rooting for Germany. Or he was rooting for West Germany, I'm assuming, but then didn't.
I don't think they were competing that year.
They were playing summer games on the Commodore 64, and he was. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt. I just had that.
Well, we were talking about Adam Driver, and did he not participate in the ADR, which is why he was. What I like about that theory is it indicates that the movie is filmed in order, and it's only at the end that they couldn't. You know what I mean? Like, but apparently Matt Wood told a story where because of last minute script changes, Adam Driver is back in New York, and so Adam Driver had to put on the helmet and then record himself in a closet saying lines for that were added at the end. So now I want to go back and see which scenes of him wearing a helmet that they could. Oh, that must have been something that they put in, after the fact. So,
it's like we're a dyad. Mom, are you using the vacuum?
He still lives with his mom.
Yeah, it does. Yes, that doesn't surprise me. That I wasn't blaming him this whole time. I was just thinking that also.
Oh, yeah.
It seems like there were a lot of changes, particularly with the ending, with how things were going to go. So,
I wonder if that's why they had Adam Driver wear the mask, because it'll be a lot easier to change dialogue after the fact if we don't have to lip sync with anyone's.
As a matter of fact, let's have him put it back on. Let's make a new mask for Ben Solo.
Yes. Some other people who are credited with being in background and extras and stuff. Designer Chip Kidd.
Oh yeah. Jamie
Oliver, who I believe is a chef of some kind.
Okay.
Dimitri Vegas Thavaios. Sorry, Vegas, if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. A rapper by the name of Michael Dapah. Dapaah. And Carl Urban listed as being in the background. Only JJ is the only one who has more credits in the film than Carl Urban.
That is interesting. He's
which part? Vegas.
Well, who gets credited with their own kind of cameo roles and who doesn't? Because wasn't also, I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe everybody's credited with maybe there's the people that they sneak in.
It's hard to say because I feel like, over on Godfather Minute plug, the credits for the Godfather movies are like 2 minutes long. They barely credit, anyone. But if you go to the IMDb page, like the actors, there's tons of uncredited actors. So I'm not sure what the rules are for how uncredited actors are later credited on IMDb.
Right.
Is this just the actors putting themselves in? Don't know.
Yeah, wasn't there some discussion as to whether or not there's like one guy who said he played 3 or 4 different parts in the original Star Wars, and there's some discussion as to whether or not he really was. I think there's some.
Right. Yeah.
especially with like stormtroopers and stuff. People are like, "Oh yeah, that's me."
Oh yeah, totally. It turns out it's actually an escaped prisoner pretending to be a. Oh
Right.
wait, Sha-na-na. Here's something I thought was kind of interesting. It's been discussed that of the Disney trilogy, the first one is Han Solo, the second one is Luke Skywalker, the last one was supposed to be Carrie Fisher.
Mm-hmm.
Someone pointed it out retroactively in the original Star Wars. In each of the original Star Wars, Luke Skywalker has to establishes a relationship with a prequel character. First one, he meets up with Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Mm-hmm.
Second one is where he meets up with Yoda.
Okay.
And then in the third one, he meets the Emperor. So
Okay.
I thought that was kind of cool that it retroactively, like obviously that was a plan, I'm assuming.
Right.
But I think that's kind of a cool feature, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like poetry. And finally, my last bit of trivia.
Well, I was going to try to tie that into what I guess it's based on the prequels. So I was like, does that tie into but you just said that the new ones, each one is kind of featuring an original trilogy character.
Right. It's
So
almost
then
like
now,
it's like the same structure of taking three characters from the previous trilogy and now making them
right. So we can
appear
only hope that in the new Rey movies that then we start out with Rey, and then in the second one she'll meet Poe or Finn. And
I guess
the
to
third one, she'll meet
really
the other
maintain it would have to be a new character who would then meet Rey, and then the new character would meet.
Right. Right. Yes.
Let's say who's it? Rose Tico, and then the
Mhm.
third one would be hooking up with Zori Bliss.
There you go.
So that each character would.
Welcome back to Hooking Up with Zori Bliss. I'm your host, Zori Bliss.
I hope that any sequels will try to retroactively, like we'll see Rose Tico's children or like characters that were minor characters in this. I want to see turned into bigger characters so that they'll become.
Let's not say minor. Let's say underdeveloped characters from this.
Underdeveloped characters.
Yeah.
Yes. I meant the minor characters from Solo when they were at the castle.
Oh, the ones underground. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant. My last bit is that one of the working titles was Star Wars: The Last Hope. Who knows if it was true or not? It feels like they just did The Last Jedi, so it seems like The Last Hope. It's unlikely to me that they would have used that. Obviously, they didn't. So
yeah.
But I can't imagine that was seriously considered.
I wonder if like how long into the process they came up with title ideas. You know what I mean? Because that's like even before like because they knew they had story points that they wanted to hit before they did any of the scripting. They had like, okay, we're gonna do a new trilogy. Here's what's gonna happen. This. And so, do you think that they had like, okay, Return of the Force? I'm sure it was considered or something like that for the first one. They're like, oh well, they probably thought went through all these iterations of like, okay, we'll have this be the title for that. I think we've said it before. I think there's a couple of missteps in not artistically but just kind of conceptually with The Last Jedi, and having the middle one be called The Last is one of them.
Like that's kind of appropriate since that was the movie that kind of like acted like it was the last movie of the trilogy, and then you're like, all right, do what you're gonna do. Yes. That's funny. I feel like they just fed a bunch of Star Wars names into a like random generator, and it's just they took
right.
I mean, to give George Lucas credit, he other than Revenge of the Sith, although Sith, I was gonna say he introduced a new noun in each of the like the Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and I guess Revenge of the Sith. That was kind of a Star Wars word, but.
Yeah, but I mean, clones were mentioned too, but it wasn't like it was already in a title. Whereas here
it was nothing from the original trilogy. It was certainly not. Sith is never spoken in the original trilogy,
right?
But the Disney ones were a lot more conservative with Force,
Jedi,
Skywalker.
They're like let's do word association. I'm going to say Star Wars. You say the first three words that pop into your head.
Yes, exactly. That's all I have for minute number 140.
141.
Oh, yeah, both of them. I don't have anything for 140 either. So
weirdly, we covered that last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, we're getting close to the end here.
So I'm going to plug not more personal, but more selfish thing. I'm going to plug my merch store, mine. And if you go to Alex Robinson Super Genius .threadless.com, that will take you to or just go to Threadless and look up Alex Robinson Super Genius, all one giant word, and that will take you to my merch store where no Star Wars designs. That goes all in StarWarsMinute.com/merch.
Contractually obligated.
Yes, but if I do other stuff. I appropriate other IP, not just Star Wars. So go check it out. What about you, Pete? Do you have any?
Just on Friday, I was wearing a Box Office Poison shirt right here on this very show.
I did notice that actually, so I wanted to thank you for that. What about you, Pete? Any side projects you want to? Any hiatus projects you want to hype up?
Not right now. I did at one point start up a TeePublic of my own, or a Threadless of my own, rather, to put a handful of things that are just nerd shirts that I don't see out there. I'm filling a void in shirts that I would want to have, but I never did much with it. And I have a bunch of half completed designs.
Yeah.
But, like I said, we'll still be here. I think I want to let people know to look out for YouTube, StarWarsMinute.com/YouTube, that will have some new content coming up there.
Awesome.
That's where I'll be flexing my muscles in the video editing department. So.
And this will be exclusive on YouTube, not
yes, YouTube exclusives. I'm gonna head down to the Steenbeck and start cutting some celluloid right now.
Something about Beck.
Me and Beck.
All right, so go do that, and then join us tomorrow for the season/series finale.
What?
Of Star Wars Minute.
Star Wars Minute.